I think it's important that the new generation, the young generation watching this, growing up, understand that growing up being a gangster or being involved in that kind of lifestyle isn't really what the hype is all about. And I'm just here hopefully sharing my story, and through sharing my story, we can help some other kids make some better choices growing up.
Now you're 30 years old now. I think you've told me that you first got drawn into the United Nations gang when you were just 16 years old. Can you talk a little bit about how that happened? What were you going through as a teenager at the time? Why would this look like a good path to go down?
My dad left my mom when she was 9 months pregnant with my youngest sister and left to Kurdistan to get married, and kind of left us high and dry. And the older people that I had around me, I looked up to. Maybe it was in absence of my father, and I didn't really have a male figure growing up besides my mother. So at a young age, I was surrounding myself with older people that were making some wrong choices that later influenced me into being exactly who they are, if not even worse.
Now, I know you don't want to, talk specifically about individuals, and I understand that too, but these were people like in your community who had come as refugees prior to you being here?
Yeah, that's correct. There are also people that are close family friends that I grew up with that they were associated with the UN, and I kind of got dragged in that way. And not having a father, dropping out of high school at grade 10, and just started working on the streets, Hastings, and one thing led from another, and in and out of prison. And 14 years later, here I am, regretting everything that I used to do, and wouldn't encourage it or think it's cool as I used to.
For sure. You say you were working on Hastings. You were working in the drug trade?
That's correct.
And did you start like at a real low level, like on a dial-a-dope line? And, what was that like? Were you nervous at that point in time? You must have already been seeing some violence.
Yeah, I was nervous, but at the same time, I think the nervousness is overcome by the image that you're trying to show and trying to be cool and fit in around older people. And sometimes you want to do things, you don't want to do things, but you have to do things either because of the people that are around you, or you want to fit in or be cool. So I've seen a lot of things that I wouldn't want anyone to see or be involved in. And everybody starts at the bottom and slowly works their way up. But it was nice to have, family and close relatives that were close to me that helped me move up in the ranks a lot faster than somebody that didn't have any family.
Obviously, you're making some pretty good money as well. Is that a part of the attraction as a young guy?
I think that's 50% of it, like the easy money that's coming in. And, you're young, you're 14, 15, 16 years old. And, when you have going out there making $300, $400, $500 a day, that's a lot of money for a teenager, And with money comes a lot of trouble too, because it opens doors to do other things and experiment other things.
Do you think that refugee kids are more vulnerable to being recruited into gangs?
100%. Refugees, immigrants that come to this country, they already live a hard life in their own country. So when they come here and they see all the freedom, and mind you, every case is different. We don't know what someone else's path was like, what shoes they walked through, what their situation is. But not a lot of refugees come here, happy. Yeah, they're happy to be in Canada, but they left their family, they left their life, everything behind to come here for a better life. And unfortunately, they choose to do the wrong things, and doesn't really get them anywhere. But I think there's a lot of opportunity and resources in Canada for youth, but there's never enough, because look what's happening all around us. But when you bring a refugee or an immigrant into a country like this, they're used to seeing guns, firearms, all this kind of stuff. So it's nothing new to them. And with the freedom that Canada allows you to have, it's bound for trouble.
So you started a fairly long stretch of criminal activity when you were still a teenager. Do you remember the first time you got arrested? What was that like? What was that for?
I'm pretty old now, but when the first time I got arrested was, I think, 14 or 15, and that was for, I think, an assault on Hastings for beating somebody up that owed me some money, and I never seen the end of that charge. I pled guilty to an assault that was probation, and probation led to something else, and it's a cycle that it's really hard to break from.
Were you scared of the police? Like, did you think, oh, geez, now I've been arrested, maybe this hasn't been a good idea?
Honestly, like at the time when I was in the cells, I would think like, what am I doing and stuff, but as soon as I would get back out and be around those friends, I would forget about all that.
You'd be right back at it.
It was too powerful of a lifestyle for someone to just change overnight.
And then when you get out, those are the people who are supporting you.
They're the ones that are paying your bill and picking you up. So what are you going to say to them?
Right, exactly. Now, you had that more serious home invasion charge that really kind of set you off and, into the justice system, if you will. Can you talk about that event and what it was like, how it happened?
We were kids, and, I was told that there'd be a significant amount of money somewhere, and I with a couple of my friends at the time, went to go execute a search, and unfortunately there was somebody in the house. We didn't want anyone to be in the house, and we were trying to prevent that, but somebody got hurt, and I feel bad for my actions at the time, but we were led to believe that there would be something significant, and unfortunately we didn't really find anything, and it cost me 6.5 years of my life for 30 seconds of being in someone's house.
Were you surprised to learn through that prosecution that police had in fact been listening to your phone calls prior to that?
Correct. They're surveillancing the people around me that were high up in the UN gang, and that I was hanging around with them, talking about the home invasion, and therefore I'm now under investigation for upcoming home invasion.
Right. And they're linking you to the gang too, probably for the first time.
The first time, yeah.
So, and that was a long stretch in prison, as you said. What was that like? Were you already reconsidering your path at that point, or were you just hanging around with more criminalized people when you were in custody?
I spent 3.5 years in remand before I spent another 3 years in the federal system. It was rough, coming into prison and being 18 years old and trying to fend for yourself. And it's the survival of the fittest. And after those, a year, 2 years, 3 years go by, you're like, well, what am I really doing, And in your heart, well, at least for me, I had the intentions on changing my ways and, not wanting to continue with this lifestyle. But I must admit it is hard, because in prison, you're surrounded by criminals, and all they talk about is criminal activity, right? So, and when you get out, it's really hard to be successful when you're around the same crowd of people that brought you in prison the very first time.
And I imagine in remand, you were being held in a UN unit, right? Because they've kind of got them all segregated based on gang affiliation.
Yeah, that's correct. We had our own units, and same with the federal system.
So again, it's just more keeping you entrenched with the people that you got into trouble with in the first place.
And it makes you really think about, like, is everything really worth it? Like, I spent 30, 40 seconds in someone's house, and now I have to spend 6.5 years of my life, my prime years, 18 to 24, incarcerated. It makes you, it makes you sit there for nights and think about your actions, for sure.
Okay, so after you get out on the home invasion charges, what happened then? You kind of spiraled by things that we later heard in court.
Yeah, after I got out, shortly after, my grandpa died in back home, and I was trying to be legit, but I still had one feet in both worlds. And I bought a tanning salon, and I was buying and selling vehicles, but I was still involved in things that I shouldn't be involved in. And it's just, everything happens so fast, and it's just like, once you do something, it's you take one step forward and it's taking 10 steps backwards. I was still hanging around and talking to people I shouldn't be, and that was my biggest downfall.
Okay, so you made this decision. You did what you had to help secure a conviction in this old murder case. In exchange, you had to get something from the VPD as well, because you were in the prison system and you were going to be at risk of physical injury, if not death. Can you talk about what the VPD said they would do to protect you?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into detail, but they had mentioned to me that they would, help me cover all security aspects of me being released, and help me make sure, nothing happens to me. But that wasn't the case.
And they also were going to make sure you were safe in prison while you were finishing your sentence as well, right?
You would think so. And that wasn't the case either. And I don't, to be all honest and to be fair, all my dealings with the VPD, I have nothing but respect for the VPD and for the people that I worked with in the VPD. It was the other agencies that were involved that, that kind of cut me to the curb. VPD did try everything they can to help me, but when you cooperate, there's other people involved that,
Right.
Take away from VPD.
Right.
And it's those
You get put over with specialty people who look after the security of cooperators, basically. And they're the ones who let you down?
Exactly.
And
RCMP, the Witness Protection Program.
Right. Can you talk about, did they give you a reason why they were no longer going to provide you with the protection?
I was smoking weed on the unit, and I've been smoking weed my whole bit. That's how I get by. I suffer from PTSD, anxiety. I have a medical marijuana license out here to smoke weed. I was smoking weed, and they felt that if I couldn't follow rules of a unit institution, that I wouldn't be able to follow their rules on the street. Mind you, I never did anything to jeopardize any case. I never did anything but help, and their reasoning from the start, I could see that they didn't want to help me. After they get what they want out of you, they kind of just kick me to the curb. And it's funny too, because I've seen other people, when you give a statement and you give testimony, if you lie, you'll be charged.
Right.
There's individuals who I have their names and their handlers' names who lied, cost 2 people to get off on a second-degree murder because he lied in his testimony. They dropped the charges, but they still continue to help that person financially and security, all that, because he still needed to testify in 3-4 other investigations. So it's just funny how the police pick and choose who they really want to help and who they don't. So and as I'm saying this, I have nothing bad to say about the VPD or the individuals from the VPD who have helped me out or who were trying to help me out. It was the people that came afterwards that I'm directing this to.
And you also were subjected to some pretty brutal attacks in 2 different institutions, one in BC, one in Ontario. Can you talk generally about what happened?
Yeah, I was incarcerated here in BC, and I was on the most secure unit in Canada. We all signed a non-disclosure agreement for zero violence, and an individual attacked me who previously was from a previous gang, a rival gang from UN, and attacked me, and shortly after that, that's when they kicked me off the unit.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
And then you were sent to Millhaven in Ontario. What happened there?
And 3 weeks after getting to Millhaven, because they just put me on a normal unit, and they didn't make sure, this unit was suitable for my arrangements. There's 3 guys in the shower trying to stab me and attack me in the shower in Millhaven.
So you've been released now, you've served all your time. What are your hopes for your future going forward?
My hopes are to work with at-risk youth and just to share my life and be who I am, not run away from my past, and just, in fact, embrace my past for the good. And I want to help others, mainly youth. And I think, there should be more resources for teenagers in communities around the Lower Mainland where they can come and, feel comfortable and feel free to speak to somebody, to do programming with them, go out with them, and just take their time and their mind off street life and the culture that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. But how are you going to guarantee your security going forward?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, if you have the right intentions, and good things happen to good people, and regardless of where I am, here in Canada or abroad, I can still fulfill my dreams and the things that